Good morning, darlings. Okay, so this is the lesson for today, the 8th of October. This is going to be a big video and it's going to be a lot of work. It might have covered 2 lessons, maybe 3, or maybe 2 lessons and a bit of homework if you're in school. But I'm going to put it all in one because it kind of goes together, and it goes together with yesterday's video as well. So make sure you kept all of that in mind. Well done to all of those of you who have already done the work and emailed it to me and asked for work. Cannot tell you how proud I am of you. I don't have the words, and that's really bad coming from an English teacher and an author, but still, hey, I don't have the words. I'm so proud of you. So keep up the good work and well done. So RESPECT, respect. We're still looking at respect. And again, we're going to look at the facts only in this interaction between the policeman and Mr. Lyons. So I'll read through really quickly just to remind ourselves of what's occurring. So the music tails off as we see the policeman confronting Mr. Lyons. The policeman has removed his helmet and holds a glass of scotch. Edward is there. Policeman: and as I say, it was more of a prank, really, Mr. Lyons. I'd just dock his pocket money if I was you. But one thing I would say, if you don't mind me saying, is, well, I'm not sure I'd let him mix with the likes of them in the future. Make sure he keeps with his own kind, Mr. Lyons. Well, thanks for the drink, sir. All the best now. He's a good lad, aren't you, Adolf? Good night, sir. He replaces his helmet and the policeman leaves. So, once more, we're talking about facts, please. We are talking about what's going on. We're talking about actual things that we know, not what we can tell, not what we can infer from the text, not what the text implies, but actually what we know, what we see on the page. We see the policeman inside the house, for example. He's taken off his helmet, for example, which is what one does. One takes off one's hat or bonnet or headdress, or well, not if you're a woman, but if you're a man, you take off your hat indoors. And he's holding a glass of scotch. This is entirely different than how he was with Miss Johnston, who was outside the house. He wasn't holding a glass of scotch. He didn't take off his helmet. He wasn't minding manners, etc., etc. Okay? So have a look at the rest of it. What else do we actually know? And pause the video and go ahead and make some notes on your play. Annotate your copy, which is in the S drive, because I know I'm looking at your books now and I know that you haven't got your plays with you. So go ahead and pause the video and do that and then come back. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you've done that. So now what we need to do is focus on what this interaction tells us about the theme of class and how that has been accomplished. So we're looking at keywords of compassion, loyalty, tone, hesitation, humour, rhetorical questions, and courtesy. These are different things from the keywords. These are different words than the keywords for Mrs. Johnston. And you can write, when you're writing up your paragraph, if you can get some of these keywords in, that's great. So a couple of you have emailed me some work from yesterday, and what I would say to you is a how question equals methods. We want to see about the methods. We want to discuss the methods that have been used when we see a how question. Okay, so people in my class already knew that. People new to my class might not have known that quite so much. But a how question equals methods. How has this been accomplished? Okay. So when I say hesitation, I mean these words here, these ers. And as I say, so whoever says is hesitating. Okay. We want to talk about tone. It's quite respectful. We want to talk about, again, you can talk about the accent, but you can talk about how he addresses Mr. Lyons, what kind of language he uses, any rhetorical questions that he uses, any courtesy that he offers Mr. Lyons, and why that might be. That might be the loyalty stuff. Okay, so as in yesterday's video, you are to write a paragraph or so about this, about your findings. So go ahead and pause the video and do that now. This is really useful for the future, really useful. So if you can do a good job of it, and you can write it on paper and save it and we'll stick it into your books, or you can type it up and we'll print it out. and stick it into your books when you get back. Either one of those is fine. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video. Really get into this though. Don't just skim over it. Really do some close reading, some close analysis, some zooming in here to get the most out of this. Okay, pause the video and go ahead and do that, and I'll see you on the next slide. See you on the next slide. How cool. No, that's not a catchphrase. I'm not going to start using that. Okay, what we're going to do now, because we've looked at one and we've looked at the other, we're going to compare the ways the policeman treats Mrs. Johnston and Mr. Lyons and how these differences have been presented, what methods have been used, right? So essentially, you've written one up for each one. Now all you've got to do is directly compare them. So you've got to meld these paragraphs together. And then what you've got to do is suggest reasons why Russell has included this in the play. So this is quite analytical. This is quite contextual. You've got to think about the 1980s. You've got to do some research for it. You've got to have a look at what was going on, what life was like. So in order to do this, you might have to do a bit of research. Now, I hear you say there's quite a lot of buttons, miss. What do the buttons say? Let's have a look at Helpful Harvey. Helpful Harvey says, checking your notes from last lesson will help with this task, but a short plan of what you want to include specifically will also ensure you don't get lost halfway through and forget what you were going to say. So a bit of a plan might not be a bad idea for this, Helpful Harvey says, and I think he's right. I think that because I wrote what he said. Now, the world of work. What on earth has this got to do with the world of work? The skills you're developing and using when you're writing essays are vital for your future studies. They're also incredibly important for any job or career which involves report writing. So this could be anything from a surveyor to like if you work in a garage and you've got to write a report about why a car fails its MOT, or like for the the insurance people, if you've got to write a report for that, or any sort of job where you've got to write a report on your findings if you're investigating something, especially when you're making comparisons between two things, such as product reviews, maybe, for example. If you can develop these skills now, you'll find your working life much easier if they're involved in your chosen career. So this is something that you don't know that you're going to need until you need it, and then you think, oh, I wish I'd done better at that at school, or I wish I'd realised that that's what I was doing and I could have practiced more. These are the skills that you are learning that we can transfer over. Okay, so this should take you about 25 minutes because we're just focusing on these two scenes. Okay, and if you're really struggling, this dude here who's pulling his hair out, we're asking if you need a sentence starter. Let me just squidge him up a bit because he's just like, yeah, okay. The screen goes really squiffy. So he says, these might be some ways to start a sentence. So in order to criticise the inequality in society of mid to late 20th century Britain, you could then finish that sentence. Or you could say, Russell uses Mickey to highlight whatever it is. Or you could say, we see in Blood Brothers, that should be, we see in Blood Brothers, or we see in Blood Brothers, I didn't know which tense was put in there. We see in Blood Brothers that class causes, well, what does class cause in relation to these two particular extracts? Mrs. Johnson is portrayed as a, because whatever it is. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and you can spend 25 minutes on that, but then come back because I'm going to give you what should be a separate video, but it ties in, so I'm going to squidge it onto the end of this. Okay, I'm going to assume that you've done that. Well done. I know that was hard, so if you want to give your fingers a bit of a rest and go and grab a brew or a biscuit or something like that, you're quite welcome to do so, okay? So the next slide then is all about class. Now this should take you an hour. The idea is that you'll start at the hour and then you'll carry on for an hour and you'll spend 10 minutes on this section, 10 minutes on this section, etc., 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 until you have filled the hour. And the idea is that this is a revision clock, and I know some of you do these quite regularly, especially if you're in Miss Pownell's class, because I stole the idea from her. And the idea is you put the topic in the middle, so it'll be class this time. You'll draw a circle, you'll divide up your page. So this will be like an A3 size, so 2 pieces of A4. And you'll put the characters' names at the top or at the side of each box, just like these. So you'll focus on these characters, please. And what you'll do then is you'll find quotes which from those people or about those people that relate to the topic in the middle. So in this case, it would be Mrs. Johnston and class, or Edward and class. I totally get that this would be much easier if you've got your plays with all your labels in to find all your stuff. I get that, but if you can remember a couple of keywords and you can press the Control and F button on your laptops, if you're working on laptop, it will find the keywords for you and take you to the quote. If not, you can just scroll up and down and through. Okay, so this should take you an hour. So you've got actually more work than just today's lesson to be getting on with, but that's not a problem. So it'll keep you good for a while, okay? But if you can do it all today, fantastic, especially if other subjects haven't really got enough work to you just yet. This will keep you busy and keep you in the good habits of working hard, so that when they do get their stuff to you, if they haven't done already, then you won't have lost your working mojo. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, grab a biscuit or a piece of fruit if we're going to be healthy, grab a drink, and you can do this then after that, and then come back because there's one more thing to do. Okay, well done. I'm going to assume that you had like at least 4 biscuits, because you know how I feel about odd numbers, and that you did a very good job, and that you made sure everything was different colours and highlighted, so it wasn't just a sea of black, and it will look very pretty when you stick it in your books. Okay, right. Now, this is the kind of question you might get in the exam. Do you remember ages ago when I showed you the exam format and we were choosing between 2 questions, and one was 2 characters and then one was a theme? I'm going to ask you to do 300 words, give or take. I'm not going to ask you for the 700 that we expect in the exam for a really good answer. I'm going to ask you for about 300 words on just class, please. So you can highlight in particular the stuff that we've looked at, but literally any other of the quotes that you've just found for that revision clock can be used, explored, and explained and analysed, okay? Now, set yourself 45 minutes for doing this. Why is that, miss? Because in the exam, you will have 45 minutes for this question, and it's a really good idea to sort of train yourself to be able to write well and enough and a sustained piece, a complete piece preferably, in that time. So set a timer on your phone for 45 minutes, set all your other notifications off so that, put the do not disturb on so that you're not, disturbed. Set your timer for 45 minutes and then answer this question. You can, of course, because this is a classwork, not exam work, plan it first. You can plan what you're going to say and where and why, and you cannot forget to talk about methods and contextual detail, AO1, AO2, and AO3. So how does Willie Russell present ideas about class in Blood Brothers is your question. And you can write about the ways particular characters are influenced by class and how, methods, how Russell presents class by the way he writes, methods. Okay, we're looking for about 300 words plus or minus 10%, so 270 to 330 is your limit. Talk about your methods and talk about your context. If you want to type this up after you've handwritten it, please don't type it up first because you won't have a computer in the exam and you're doing yourself a disservice. Please handwrite this first. You can type it up after and send it to me, or you can just write it up and bring it in when you're next in school and I'll take a look then. As ever, if you need anything, you can tweet me at Miss Hine English, or you can email me. I will answer your questions as soon as I possibly can. Stay safe, wash your hands, stay away from people. Hope you're all right. If you need anything, you know where I am. Like and subscribe. Jokes. Obs.